Welcome everyone to another episode of Around the Edge. Tom Ahles, got my man over here, Brad Schmidt. Another good local native here to Minnesota. Known about Brad a hell of a lot longer than I've actually known him, because you've been, who did I hear about you first? I think it was either Lindahl or even Andy Polsky. I think it was Polsky. You know Polsky?
I do, yeah. It's funny, actually, you bring him up because I'm drinking his Yeti coffee mug over there.
Beautiful. Are you really? Good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andy. My neighbor,
What's up, Andy?
I was talking with my neighbor last night, and he was like, yeah, I just got back from Colorado out visiting with them. But there hasn't been anybody that I've ever met that's had anything but to say, yeah, dude, Brad's a good guy. He's solid, works hard. One, I didn't recruit you to Edge. It was one of our other team members that did.
Right.
But very thankful to have you on the team. You bring a lot of class and character with hard work and, building to the culture that we've established here. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you on the team. And thanks for showing up this morning for our Around the Edge podcast, which really, it's just an opportunity for not only our team members to get to know you a little bit, but even me. So, let's start a little bit with the origin story, my man. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, if you grew up in Minnesota, and then dive into how you got into the mortgage industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Lino Lakes, Minnesota, just up in the north end of town. So it was quite a trek getting down to the south end of town here for me this morning. It took me like an hour and 20 to get here.
Still living in Lino Lakes area?
So, I live in Ham Lake now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was about an hour and 20 minutes to get down here. So
holy smokes. That's why you didn't want to come office with me. Now I get it.
Yes, I was going to tell you that this morning.
That makes
that's
sense.
The exact reason, yep. So yeah, I grew up in Lino Lakes. Basically stayed there my whole life. I went to high school Forest Lake, and then when I graduated, I actually joined the Army Reserve.
Okay.
But not long after graduating, I actually got onto active duty with Army Reserve, and so I was a hazmat tech, so I was on a full-time hazmat team. Did that for about 3 years, and then like the last year that I was on active duty orders, I decided to get my real estate license because just as like an extra way to, make some extra money on the side. I was, kind of had the best of both worlds in the military, doing that while I was, still living in the area that I grew up in. So my entire sphere, was here in the Twin Cities. So got my real estate license, did pretty well my first year just selling part-time. I sold 12 houses and, and
did pretty well. That's most agents right now would be throwing out sparklers if they were doing 12 transactions.
Exactly. So just did that part time, and then I was actually supposed to be on active duty for a 4th year. And then right around 2016, that's when some of like the military budget cuts were coming down the line, and so. Essentially the mission that I was on, the funding got cut short, so we were given about a month notice that, oh, hey, your guys' orders aren't being renewed. And so I had my real estate license, was doing pretty well, and I was like, well, I guess in a month I'm a full-time real estate agent.
Part-time to full-time, real quick.
I was like, well, I guess I'm a full-time real estate agent now. So did that. I did that for just shy of about 7 years. And did pretty well there. I was on a couple different real estate teams. I was successful, on my own. And then 2021 decided to make the jump over to become a lender. And a lot of people told me that I was crazy because
you were closing a lot of deals as an agent, right?
I was closing probably 40-ish deals a year on my own, which is great, for a sole real estate agent with not a lot of overhead. But it just kind of came down to, that market in 2020 and 21 really kind of burned me out when, every house had 20 offers on it. Yes. And, I have 2 little kids at home. So it was like I was working 10 times as hard for the same dollar to never see my kids hardly or not see them as much as I wanted to.
Sure.
And so, just decided to kind of make the jump, which was scary at the time because, in my house, I have a fiance that stays at home, and 2 kids. And so it was kind of a scary, and at the time, I honestly didn't even really realize it until people started asking me and being like, wait, you made a switch, like a total career change? Granted, it's the same industry, but it is
still
complete. Yeah, I mean,
different.
I didn't have, I didn't have a network of people that knew me as Brad, the mortgage guy.
Yeah.
They knew me as Brad, the real estate agent.
Yes.
And so it did help in my transition a little bit. I mean, it definitely helped in my confidence of making that switch, but it was scary, and it was a pretty, I pretty much just had to bet on myself, and so did that, and it's obviously paid off, So I've been a loan officer now for 2 years.
So 2 kids. How old are your kids?
5 and 2.
5 and 2.
Little
Awesome.
one's almost 3.
I mean, there's nothing I don't know. To me, I have to catch myself. We were talking a little bit about it before the show, but even you have to be intentional with your time with your family, because you can always make more money. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, you always can. You can never make more time to spend with your family, with your kids, being there for them. The first time they ride a bike, the first time that they have a tooth come. I mean, just there's so much that even we sacrifice now in the mortgage industry, but for agents that are doing the kind of business that you were, I mean, it's not a 9-to-5 by any means. I mean, just on call 24/7.
And it's mainly the nights, the weekends. For the longest time, I mean, I could never go out of town on the weekends because I always had either showings or open houses or just whatever. And same thing, in the evening, because the reality is people have day jobs, so they look at homes at night.
Yes.
And it's it's not that we don't have to work, because obviously we work
always. But you flip open your laptop compared to having to drive in your car.
Exactly. You don't physically have to be you don't physically have to be here to show the houses. I can kind of do that from my kids could be watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and I'm writing pre-approval letters, and so that's so it's been great from that.
So as an agent, before you got into the mortgage industry, what was it that I would say pros and cons, because a lot of our agents have a different insight, and I think having the experience that you've had on both sides, what it feels like to work with a bad lending partner compared to a good lending partner. Yeah. What were some of those things that, to you, when you were searching out a lending partner, what were some of the key attributes that really made somebody a good lending partner, in your opinion? Yeah,
so I think probably the number one thing was communication, is just kind of always keeping parties in the loop. That way you just know that, things are moving smoothly. Yeah. Closings are going to happen, because the reality is, we, in this industry, we don't make a salary. We don't make, or in most cases, you don't make a salary. We don't make an hourly wage, so we depend on closings to happen. Yes. And so communication is definitely number one, but also just knowing that your lending partner, they could kind of be a one-stop shop, and that was one thing. If you're at a retail company, one of the biggest advantages of being here that I've noticed is I can pretty much talk to anybody and feel confident that I have a solution for their lending need. Yeah. Where it's if you're at a retail lender that, you're just conventional FHA, VA, maybe you have a construction loan. Yep. You can't do commercial. You don't typically, unless you work at a bank, you don't do HELOCs, you don't do bridge loans. You don't do a whole lot of the non-QM type stuff. So
then on top of it, you have overlays.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily, I guess at that time, I didn't really realize that as much as a real estate agent, but that's one thing now flipping over here that I'm really starting to kind of press on my real estate partners is hey, it's really important that you have someone that can pretty much be a one-stop shop. We have down payment assistance and more than the average loan officer. We have access to more than the average loan officer. But also that you can just be a resource for pretty much anything that comes across their desk too.
Yeah, it's really expanded. I mean, for me as a broker over the last 22 years, I never really even got into the commercial aspect of it, but now, I would say how technology has advanced on the wholesale side for just regular agency, like you mentioned, FHA, conventional. There was a while there on the retail side that there were things that were a little better from a process. And now that's completely flipped, right? Now on the broker side, there is more communication, there is more support, there is just amazing technology. And I think we're starting to see that migration now on the commercial side.
Yeah.
Because I think commercial lenders are also starting to see like, well, wait a minute, we have a huge resource of salespeople that are the front lines that, you know, we're not catering to.
Yeah.
So we're really starting to see the commercial division, especially with an edge, start to grow. So for me, it's one of those things to where like the learning on our job never ends, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a reverse mortgage specialist, great. You want to be a, you know, all-in-one where we do a first position heal. I mean, there's so many options that really, one of the biggest joys I get in this job is the ability to always continue to get better, to always like expand my knowledge to where I'm not just stuck in that box. So you made the move from real estate agent to loan officer. Where did you start? Like, what was the first company you went with?
So the first company that I went with, it's called My City Mortgage. They were a sub branch of Hometown Lenders.
Yes.
Yep. So I was there.
Are they still in business?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think when you left, and then Jusela left too, right?
Yep.
And there was a lot of good local talent there.
So I know that they're kind of, you know, making moves to do their own thing. Hometown Lenders in general, I don't think they're probably going to be around too long.
If I'm not mistaken, we've hired a few people from across the country that were with them. They keep doing different mergers with different companies, and it's
exactly. And I know that behind the scenes, there's a lot of extracurriculars going on. So
well, it's tough in this industry right now. Like even for us selling wholesale rates, it's still I don't want to say tough, but there's less business. When there's less business, there's more people fighting for it.
Exactly.
When more people are fighting for it, the price on loans start to drop a little, right? Like, so on the retail environment, for those that don't understand how it works, I mean, they pad the margins to be able to pay all the non-support staff, regional managers, area managers, district managers. You know, you have all these people getting paid that aren't really doing anything. And I don't want to say not doing anything. There used to be a time where there was enough revenue generated because the margins paid more. Like margin compression just isn't from shopping. It's from the fact that you know, technology has advanced enough to where now you don't necessarily need those positions are expired. You know, what do you need an area or regional manager for? Like,
well, that's the thing is I feel like the way that our broker business is set up, we don't need those things. But I do feel like part of that retail promise or that retail expectation, you almost have to have those people, right? I mean, those are the layers that they claim make your job easier on the retail side or supposedly make your job better. But I mean, I'm sure like most people that have came here from the retail side of things can echo, you know, for me saying is like, I like this way better. I mean, I almost like that there's less layers. It keeps our pricing way more competitive. It's way simpler to explain to the consumer what they're actually paying for. So yeah, I mean, I think that like what you're talking about is really just a product of like that retail promise. They almost have to do that. And I think that the shift that we're going through in the market has really showed the weakness of that model. And I know there's a lot of people that try to, you know, say, oh, it'll be back. It'll be, you know, that retail margin will be back. I don't know that it will. I don't honestly, because industries change and things change. Consumers get smarter as technology gets better. And I don't know, especially with the shift of how many people that have moved to the broker side, what's to say that retail is ever going to get the ability to gain that margin back?
It really
because
doesn't.
we'll always be running at thinner margins and way more lean than they will be. I don't see that side of it rebounding to the level that they were.
To be able to offer a competitive pay and still have rates where they're not embarrassed.
Because you know, loan officers can only work for 70 basis points for so long before and then when business is down, working on 70 basis points.
You're closing one deal and making $2,000 a month.
You can't survive bleeding off that. I mean, you're either going to decide to get out of the business or you're going to start to look for other options if you like this business. and that's how
might even start selling life insurance.
That's
I had
right.
a couple of retail. I had a conversation with Major today. He was like, "Can you believe this guy called me? He was trying to pitch me like retail. I'd always try to pitch me on selling life insurance."
Yeah.
But so I've never worked in necessarily distributed retail. I worked on the banking side for a little bit. You know, it was somewhat retail because it was a division of a bank, but it was different than like distributed retail. You know, you mentioned something that really, for my own personal knowledge, when you say they have to have it for that, like, was there ever a time that I think I knew who your managers were because you had a couple of, I would say, well-known managers in this area.
Yeah.
What did they ever do for you, though, that was really like, was it setting up realtor relate? Like, what was the actual, if you look back on it and say, okay, I was probably giving away half of my pay for this.
Yeah.
What was it that they did?
I mean, being brand new to the industry, I did feel like my branch manager was a really good help and like, you know, kind of
mentoring.
Yeah,
as far as
mentoring and like, you know, running different loan scenarios and, you know, kind of helping like coach me through different scenarios, because that's the one like main difference between real estate and being on the lending side is like, you know, I'm kind of like a systems and like a play-by-play guy, right? So it's like on the real estate side, it's like show people houses, they like the house, write the contract. The contract is virtually written the same way every single time for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Minus a few details, you know, pass it off to the lender, title work gets done, you go to closing, right? On this side of things, there are so many more variables and things are, I mean, guidelines are constantly changing.
Over 10,000 every 90 days.
To the point where it's like you almost month to month, like if you closed a scenario last month, that same scenario this month might have a completely different outcome.
100%.
Because of rule changes.
Yes.
And so when I got onto this, I mean, I had enough kind of mortgage knowledge to be dangerous, right? Kind of the surface level stuff where I could have confident conversations, not about rates and specifics,
just about process,
but about like just process, getting, you know, the pre-approval process and, you know, kind of understanding some of the basics of like FHA, VA and conventional, you know. But it was just, you know, it's way different. So like, I did feel like coming in here, I did get a lot of mentorship on that side of things because it's like you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh, you think you know one thing and then all of a sudden you get this curveball over here and it completely changes the game.
Right. We have almost 120 different answers because if we have 120 different lenders, not only are things opinionated sometimes,
for sure,
but as you mentioned, even with guideline changes. So would you say like account executives now play the role of what maybe a branch manager did on the retail side? Is that a fair...
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I would say they're probably more similar to like operations managers. Yeah. More people that it's, you know, because like most of our AEs don't necessarily like, you know, we still call the shots on like what programs we
100%.
go with and things like that. But they kind of just like are a resource to open the book for you.
To help educate
exactly.
you on it.
So I would say AEs are probably more like operations managers.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, as long as on this side you're not willing or you're not afraid to ask questions, you'll get the answers that you need, no matter where you're at, right? I mean, because there still are plenty of layers to get your questions answered. Yeah. You know, you have your AEs. You know, one big myth on this side of things is that you can never talk to the underwriter. Every single lender that I've sent loans to since being here, I've had conversations with every single underwriter.
Yeah, it's a must.
On every file.
It's a must.
You know, and then obviously I have assistants, I have processors, so those things all help as well. But yeah, so it's...
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because, you know, one thing why, you know, you asked from the beginning, like, what is this about? What are we doing? It's a great opportunity for me to learn more about our team members, but also hear things about like how you run your business. Because truthfully, you get to operate as an independent, right? If anything, I mean, I say this, but I mean it. Like I work for you. Like if there's something you need, something I can do, how can I help you? What can I do? Tell me a little bit about the structure. Like how did you set up your team? What does it consist of? Just share that with me as far as like your personal production team.
For sure. So I have right now I have an LOA, John Metcalf.
Yeah, I love John. John's a good
John's
dude.
awesome. I have a dedicated third-party processor.
Yep, that's key.
Brittany Lee.
Yep.
So
another amazing person.
Yeah,
That's why we need so many people around each other, but I never knew you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're essentially the backbone of my team. I mean, my philosophy has always been my assistants should almost be better than I am at my job.
Yeah.
Right? Because one thing that I've never had a problem with, I guess, whether it's like real estate or mortgages, is I've never had a problem getting business in the door.
Yeah.
Right? But in reality, like if you want to scale your business, you have to leverage it at some point.
You have to delegate.
Exactly.
And
you have to, exactly. And so like my mentality has just always been, I'm always just going to make sure that the people that are on my team are better than I am.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. I mean, John is truthfully a better probably loan officer than I am.
Yep.
Right. And then, you know, another strong suit that I have, obviously I kind of oversee the operation. I make sure that the pipeline, you know, I have a full global view of what's coming in, where are active shoppers at, you know, and I'm working with those people. So essentially, like what they do, like what John helps me do is, you know, I work on a lot of the front end stuff. I do all my pre-approvals, do all like the client relationship stuff on the front end. Contract comes in, accepted PA comes in. He essentially takes it and runs with it. So I do a fairly structured handoff to John, and then he goes in like our lending pad file, tees everything up exactly how it is in the PA, puts all the file contacts in there, and then he does a handoff once we have all of the updated documentation. He does a fairly detailed handoff to Brittany so that Brittany can get started on the processing end. And so we've made some adjustments recently that have made it pretty clean, where by the time John hands it off to Brittany, she pretty much can just hit a button and submit it to underwriting, which has really smoothed out our process. I mean, this month is probably going to be my biggest month ever as a loan officer.
What is that? Let's hear it.
I don't want to count my chickens.
You don't have to, but you're saying, I mean, dang it, it's the 28th, brother. I mean,
so not August, but we're coming into September. Right now, I believe we have 20 loans on the board to close for September. Yeah. Which is pretty,
especially in this market. I mean, to me, it's not a surprise, though. I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. Your skill set, you have to know what you're great at and what you're good at.
Right.
You're a good LO, right? I mean, but you can be the best LO in the world.
Yeah.
But if you're not good at getting business in the door, there's a massive difference. Like I would say the same for me. Jake, and you know Jake really well.
Yep.
Jake, in my opinion, is probably one of the best LOs I've ever worked with. The guy was really, really good, knows products, knows everything. But our skill set's different.
Right.
You know, to me, I can go out and get business pretty easily. Like it comes naturally to me because, you know, the same reason why you would hire someone, you work with people that you know, like, and trust.
Right.
Not to state that either of our, you know, LOA or partners, people don't know, like, and trust, but probably a lot more people know you than they know John. That's just what it comes down to, right? Because of really your own personality and putting yourself in circles. Why you and I have even met a lot of the same people. How you know Andy Polsky, we were talking about.
Right.
How you know that guy? He lives in Colorado. Like, you know, people that are like connectors.
Yeah.
That's where this industry is amazing for them. And I've seen people succeed, not only moving from real estate, but even other industries. Like I've seen successful people that were in car sales, successful people that were in, you know, different businesses.
Bartenders.
Yes, bartenders were great. I mean, I think the majority. Did you have a background? Did you ever do that?
No.
Okay, I was wondering.
Never worked.
I was back in the day. That was my. Wasn't a bartender, but I used to run.
That's the one thing I've never worked in any sort of food industry.
Yeah, good for you.
I was military and then real estate.
Well, you saved yourself. At least you don't have any gray hairs.
I'm starting to get some salt in the beer now. It went up here first. Now I'm starting to get the grays down here.
Hey, mine's slowly retreating. So I'm.
You just gotta let go
of it. From being married, if it's from being in the mortgage industry or the bar industry.
Combination of marriage, kids.
So clients. You got to come out with us here recently for one of our company events, right? And I don't know, I know retail sometimes has these things, but, you know, in my opinion, the event that we just had where, you know, just to let our listeners know, we were able to take our loan officers, our mortgage brokers, they were able to invite real estate agents that wanted to go to a realtor mastermind event. They were able to go, our lending partner covered the cost of it. These are growth activities that we do here at Edge that, in my opinion, are just phenomenal, right? I think you had, how many agents did you have come out with you?
I just had one this go around, yep.
Good. Who'd you bring?
Bennett Hansen.
Ben Hansen?
Yep. Yep.
Good. I don't know if I got a chance to meet Ben.
Yeah.
Who's he with?
So he's with Remax Results.
Remax?
Yep.
For some reason I love Remax agents. I don't.
Yeah.
No throwing shade at other real estate companies. EXP is probably a close second, but the mentality of Remax agents for some reason is always like they're good networkers and they always want the best for their clients. I found a lot of times instead of using an MSA with a retail lender.
Yeah. I've always been a big Remax guy. I mean, that's where I was at.
Give me some feedback on that, right? Like, to me, was it impactful for you? Do you see the things as a company that we're doing that are going to help you grow your business?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, especially with events like that, I mean, that's just something that's way different than, you know, like, I don't think that I've ever heard of, like, you know, a fairway mortgage or a guaranteed rate. I don't think I've ever heard of them doing, you know, events like that. I mean, and they probably, I mean, they don't have, I guess, you know, UWM in their back pocket, obviously, that, you know, covers the cost of some of those things. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I think that it's not only the opportunity, it's not only great that we have the opportunity to do that, but it's also how much we have the opportunity. So it's like that tool with UWM is something that, I mean, you could almost bring your lender partner, your realtor partners out there once a month if you wanted to.
Yes.
And that's just something that, you know, a lot of other companies don't have access to. So I think it's great.
It's a game changer, isn't it?
You know, because one month, you know, some of your realtor partners might not be able to make it. Well, guess what? A month or two later, you can take the next group of agents out, and it's something to get out, do something different. Even though it's like business, it's kind of not, because
you get that opportunity to actually sit and have conversations. Right. Just like you and I, we probably could have worked together another 10 years. Yeah, and we don't really get an opportunity to sit and chat. But to be able to be somewhere away, just a little bit away. Yeah. Hopefully you don't get stuck in a flood and then you're stuck there for a little longer. But, you know, to even have an environment where you get a chance to, like, some of my best conversations are, like, after the event's done and you're sitting in the hotel, you know, bar and talking about, hey, tell me what's going on. Like, how are things going? Like, what are you doing for business? Like, and then just the ideas that spark from being able to collaborate with our agent partners in that environment, to me, is invaluable.
Yeah. Like, and I also think it's great too, being able to just meet other Edge LOs, because, you know, it's interesting to hear what is working for LOs down in Texas. Yes. Interesting to hear what's working out in Hawaii, you know, and then they can ask us what's working up here, you know, and everyone's business is structured a little bit differently. And I've had a lot of great takeaways from other Edge LOs, you know, and just seeing, and the reality is, like, we're all on the same team. We're not competing against each other. You know, even for other Edge LOs that are here in Minnesota, we're not competing against each other. You know, the reality is people have their realtor partners, and, you know, it's very rare that we're stepping on each other's toes.
100%.
You know, maybe in multiple offers we might have pre-approvals on the same deals, but who cares,
but that
right?
Count. I mean, I've always associated with, like, even our, you know, you're engaged, I'm married, but, like, just because, like, somebody wanted to come and try to talk to your fiance, doesn't mean anything. There's not, like, you know what I mean? It's a relationship. Relationships aren't stolen. Unless somebody's open to be stolen, but that's for a different podcast. But, I mean, the point is, you're 100% right. Like, you and I have probably heard about each other for way longer than what we... But we never ran into each other on a deal, I don't think, ever. Right? Exactly. It's like, that doesn't really happen. To me, I take that even bigger outside of Edge. Like, I like helping mortgage brokers, right? Like, to me, I know they serve consumers better. That's why I've been passionate about serving with our trade association. And to me, there's a great event coming up that I hope you can make it. We go to Vegas, right? We have our big national event here, Fuse, October 4th through the 7th. That's another one. Every year when I go, there's so much that I get really from having conversations with other originators.
Right.
Besides the fact of listening to some of the great speakers, you know, that part, you know, is entertaining. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's amazing stuff because some of the speakers are like Matt Ishbia or Dale Vermillion. Like there's some really good people, but the like secret sauce of it is like getting to have some of the conversations with other originators, like you said, in different markets. Hey, tell me how this has been working. Like for me, even our realtor event that we're doing, I got from a guy in Tennessee, you know, who was telling me how like we talked because we were both going and we're like, this event's good because we get to have those conversations, but the event needed like our agents needed more. Like we need to go. So then we got a group of brokers together, went, hey, we need to be able to change this. Like, will you allow us to? And him and I have been changing. And it's like collaboration works really well with people in the same profession because you're not stepping on each other's toes. You know, it's you're leveraging each other's intelligence and experiences in different times.
Exactly. Even if sometimes it's like, you know, sometimes if talking to other people about what they're doing just reaffirms that, hey, maybe you need to just keep doing what you're doing. You know, I find that sometimes too. It's like that's actually the biggest takeaway of the conversation of like, you know, maybe I just need to keep doing what I'm doing.
100%. Yeah, you know? Or maybe there's a tweak, you know. I mean, I watched Hunter gave a presentation about social media, and I, you know, to me, social media has been a little bit of a blessing for me because I get a chance to network with a lot more people without physically having to go out and meet at events or whatever. You get a chance to meet more people. So hearing how other people do things, even when you think you're doing it okay, you can get a little bit better, which has been, which is, to me is one of the main takeaways as well. So coming to the broker channel now, you've been with us for, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months?
5 months.
5 months? Yeah. Okay. You're about to have the best month that you've had in this industry. If there was one thing you could have done different, what would it have been?
Switch sooner.
Okay. I like that. That was not planned.
Yeah, not to make your head any bigger, but
no,
probably
I mean, to me, it's, I'm a very simple person, right? I mean, I grew up on a farm. I wasn't, I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree. So sometimes I see things as just the simplistic aspect that it is. We're in the business of selling money. And if we sell money cheaper and we close faster and it's, you know, the client experience is there. And let's not, you know, forget we also get paid more. Like, what am I missing? You know, so to me, when I boil it down to that, I'm a very, you know, I've said this before, but I'm a very no BS kind of person. I really don't understand it. Like when I've talked with other retail lenders, like even guys that you've worked for on the retail side, I'm like, explain it to me. Like, help me know. I still will take recruiting calls to this day. Like, if you can show me a way that I can either help my consumers get a better deal without sacrificing my team members and without sacrificing my compensation, I want to hear it. And never. It doesn't happen. And normally it'll come with, well, we'll give you a $3 million signing bonus. And then I'm like, okay, great. So you're giving me a high price loan that I'm going to have to pay back, and then I lose my optionality. And I'm seeing it right now. Like I talk still, I have a lot of friends that are still in retail. And they're stuck in this, you know, this circle of, okay, I'm past my clawback, but now I need money. And okay, I'm going to move from one retail that I'm unhappy to another one because they're getting 100, 200, 300 grand for a signing bonus. Like, you decided to break that. Tell me then, like, the first, you know, you're only 5 months into it, right? You're about to have your best month. Was that a difficult decision for you?
You're saying to come over here?
With the fact, because I know you had to be getting offered money for other places, and we don't pay because our margins are razor thin. We run it like almost like a franchise in a sense, to where I don't want to. I'm never going to pay for somebody to come here because you're going to be paid.
Well, it just doesn't fit the model.
It doesn't fit the model at all.
The cost of that gets passed along to someone, right? So that's the tricky part about retail. I mean, you want to talk about all the regional managers, the operations managers, things like that. Like the signing bonuses are just another layer, right? I mean, that money doesn't just come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
It comes from the consumer buying mortgages from them. So you asked, like, was that a hard decision? And I would say absolutely not. And mainly from the aspect of, like I told you earlier, is I always bet on myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't, to me, I'm like, I don't need to take $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 because I'm going to bet on myself. Yeah. I know what I can do personally. And I'm going to make that up in the difference in my compensation here.
Yeah. And the clients are not going to lose because you have to sell wicked high rates.
And the thing is too, is like, I wasn't looking for that temporary solution.
Yeah.
Like you said, those people that might be struggling right now, they have to go to another retail because they are looking for something that's a temporary patch for their current situation, which just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be somewhere where I don't want to have to think about switching in another year and a half like I did at my first company.
No, it's
right?
miserable.
Yeah, and so that was what I was mostly focused on. I didn't really care so much on the short term. Would it be sweet? Could I go pay off a truck with an extra 50, 75 grand? Sure, but yeah. I bet on myself, and I knew that I would be able to make up whatever signing bonus was going to be thrown at me in a quarter of the time that I would have probably been locked in at one of those companies under one of those clawbacks.
Yep. Well, there's a reason why people like working with you. And I think the reason why, for me, because I think you and I are very similar from that aspect, I'm always willing to bet on myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are afraid to do that. So, for those that are maybe thinking about making that change, like and getting out of the rat race of going from signing bonus, at some point, you got to stop and bet on yourself.
For sure.
And at that point, it reminds me of like my very first mentor in the mortgage industry. I was sitting in a cube, typical, mortgage job back in the day. Right. And I was complaining about something. And he came in and he literally stuck a mirror in my cube. And he said, I want you to meet your new boss. Every time you have a problem, here's who you need to turn to because it's the only person that's going to fix it for you.
Right.
I don't have enough business. I'm like... And like I swear to this day, like every time, if like even for you, you don't need. If there's something you don't like in your business, there's not. I can't change that for you.
Right.
I can give you some advice and hey, this is what I've done, but it's on you.
Right.
That's why people like to work with confident people like yourself because they know there's not going to be excuses made.
Right.
If you're willing to bet on yourself, it also typically means you're willing to take accountability. For things when they don't go right.
Yep.
So. That's really awesome. It just shows me why you've had the success that you've had and now why you're about to even blow up even more. So one other aspect of it, right? Because I know this is a little bit of a different ad, but you've also taken advantage, like we offer a revenue share program, right? That's a little different than retail where, if you want to build your team, then we'll just keep adding on basis points. We've done that different here since the day we started this company. Because truthfully, I don't know offhand who you've brought on, but you've also taken advantage of that. You've brought on and started to mentor other LOs, correct?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that. Has it worked? Financially, is it a good deal for you? Like, what has that experience been?
Yeah, so, I mean, that was probably one of the biggest reasons why I decided to come here over, like, going to Nexa, right?
Yeah.
Because at the root of it, we do loans. I'm not a recruiter, right?
Correct.
So, like, I didn't want to, it's kind of the same ideology when I was a real estate agent, right? Everyone tries to go to EXP because they've got the revenue sharing based on how many people you recruit. That's just not me, right? Yep. I will recruit and I'll take people under my wing, in certain instances, but And of course, I would like to be compensated for that, but I don't want that to be like the main part of my business because at the root of it, I do mortgages. Yeah. I'm not a recruiter.
Correct.
Right? So, but selfishly, so for me, I have an office in Champlin, right? I started a branch up there. So I looked at the, kind of small spiff that we get on any deal that the loan officers, when they close deals that we get. I looked at that as, okay, so my rent is $2,000 a month, right? Yep. So, and I have 5 private offices in there.
Yep.
So if I even have, a couple loan officers that can close 4 deals in a month, I get a free office.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
So for me, selfishly, I'm just like, I just want a free office.
Yep.
I want somewhere
it's an
to
investment
go.
tool.
Exactly. So the mentorship part of it's awesome, right? It helps us create a space where there's collaboration. And one of the biggest things, you know, I think that's kind of scary for some retail people making the jump over to being a broker is you're told from your branch managers and all these people that, oh, now you're on an island, right? You go be a broker, you pretty much go there to have your business die on the vine because you have no one to bounce ideas off of, you have no one to talk to. I wanted to change that, and I just knew, kind of going back to just betting on myself, I said, well, I can just create that environment. I don't need a branch
100%.
manager. I don't need someone else to have a big fancy office. I can go get my own office, and I can figure out the economics behind it, you know, on how to make it work. And that's what we did, you know. And so I wanted to create this like little environment where, you know, the brokers that wanted to, you know, come underneath me, or loan officers that wanted to come underneath me, could have this space where we can almost act like we're a retail branch. You know, we can be there for collaboration. We can bounce ideas off each other, run scenarios past each other, and just honestly just help each other like you would anywhere else.
Yes.
So it's worked out phenomenally.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing since day one with Edge, right? Like with Chris and Chantel are my partners. They've worked from their house. Day one, I had an office. Like I need collaboration from other LOs because not only does it motivate me, like, but I love it. Like I think we just hired on. I don't know if you know Justin Seeloff, but we just hired him from Loan Depot. Great guy. Sure. Same situation. That was one of his things. Hey, I want to be in an office. Good. Here we go. You know, come. We have a beautiful office here, and that's why, to me, you know, even for most originators that require, you have to be self-managing, right? There's not, I'm never going to call and like, Brad, man, you only did 20 last month. I really need you at 25, you know? We got to sit down and go over a game plan. Hey, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But what happens when you put yourself in an environment and like your team members see you working, you're on the phone. Like, to me, the more you're on your phone, the more money you're making. The more people you're serving, the better, you know, you're doing your job. You can't sit around and not work when other people are working, right? It's
exactly.
Like, go back to my childhood. I grew up on a farm. And if I saw that somebody was, you know, even if you didn't have anything to do, you did something.
You got to make
because you're probably going to get yelled at or smacked with a hammer or something.
Pick up a broom and start sweeping.
To me, that mentality is what I've always liked as well. Like I like being in creating that same environment that you've done. So
exactly.
It's really good to hear. So I have to take a guess. I mean, are you what 30, 31, 32?
29.
29. Damn. That's awesome.
Not quite over the hill. A couple more months. I'm hanging on.
Normally I ask, so what are you going to do in the last 10 years of your career? That doesn't work for you.
I'm still here for a long time.
So you get to see these dips. You know, this is probably your first one that you're experiencing, yet you're dominating in it. So I like that because it's going to teach you, in my opinion, that it doesn't, you're not a victim of your circumstances. You still have control on your effort. What's your future look like, right? Tell me as far as like some of your aspirations or plans to check that box of, my name's Brad and I've accomplished, I feel successful with what I've done.
For sure.
What does that look like?
Yeah, so a lot of like, you know, and a lot of my like close real estate partners know this, like I love to invest in real estate. So like that's a really big portion of like what I do in a day. So like I rehab a lot of houses. I own quite a few rental properties. So like for me personally, I look at like being a mortgage broker. I mean, I love to serve people. But it's also a vehicle to kind of help me accomplish the other things that I'm doing in my life, not necessarily just writing loans. Right. So for me, it's, you know, I want to create, you know, I want to continue to invest in real estate, essentially kind of until I have the lifestyle where if I wanted to,
you don't need to work anymore, and you've built it up.
Not necessarily because I'm a workaholic, so I'll probably work till the day I croak. But it's just to kind of have that security of knowing that you maybe don't have to work quite as hard. You know what I mean? You don't have to. And again, it's probably just this like weird little switch that's like on in my brain all the time that I'll never be able to escape. I have a lofty goal that someday maybe it will be turned off, but probably won't be.
I keep telling my wife that, like, when we retire, I'm going to want to play golf, and then I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, that's 4 hours of the day. I'm going to go freaking bonkers, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I got to figure out. That's why I don't. You know, it's kind of like I use Matt Ishby as an example, right? The guy's worth billions of dollars. Yeah. He still shows up every day at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
He still works hard every day, and it's not for money.
Right.
It's not for being number one because you're already there. Like, what is it? Some people are just driven that way.
Yeah. And that's how I am. And I don't know that will ever be completely turned off. But, like, also, right, like, I just appreciate the journey. And so, like, I don't have a life that I feel like I really have to escape from. Like, even right now, you know, like, with the level of production that I have going, I feel generally happy with, like, the balance that I have with family time and all that. And, you know, this job affords me the ability to kind of keep doing the other things on the side with the real estate investments. So I don't know. I mean, that's awesome. Maybe just keep
freaking 29 and he's talking. I got the next Grant Cardone, Minnesota over here. That's cool though.
That's for next week's podcast.
That's I mean, to me it's cool. I like how you answered it. I appreciate you being open and honest. I said it at the beginning of the show, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful to have you on the team. Somebody with the character that you have. Somebody that really holds up the reputation that you know, myself, Chris, and Chantel have worked really hard to build, to make sure that we uphold it and that character continues. So anything else you want to leave the guests before we wrap it up today?
Not really.
Good.
Not really.
Well,
you got anything else?
Appreciate you, brother. That's all. No, we'll be back
appreciate
here,
being on here.
I don't know, next week. Hope everyone has an amazing Labor Day. It's Labor Day, right? Coming up. I always get Memorial Day and Labor Day. Back to school. Kiddos going back to school. Remember, loan officers, if you're in the market trying to get off that wheel of jumping from signing bonus to signing bonus, check us out. Go to joinedge.com. You can check out all of our compensation models, how it works, hear from some of our top leaders. If you're thinking about coming in this industry and need a good mentor, reach out to Brad. This guy is busting his tail day in and day out, not because he has to, because he loves it. And when you follow someone like that, you will surround yourself by successful people. You will be successful. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.